I just bought Demon Souls with my birthday money. I had a couple of friends that really liked it, it had good reviews, and it really seemed like a game that I would like. After booting up the game, I picked Sorcerer as my starting class. I always loved casting spells in games. The introduction area went okay until the game asserted its dominance over me with the Vanguard. The Vanguard is meant to kill the player and bind the player character to the Nexus, the hub of the game. Not being able to retry the fight left a bitter taste in my mouth. Despite this, I pressed through the Boletarian Palace, but each death lowered the number of consumables that restored my MP. MP is the required resource for spells, which I was quite reliant on for damage. As I think about it now, my lack of skill, aggressive playstyle, weak starting sword, and little MP, I'm quite surprised I even made it to the first boss. After every few attempts against the boss, I'd run out of healing items and had to grind for souls to buy more, or hope that enemies dropped them. 3 hours of attempts and grinding later, I finally beat the boss. I was so done with the game and quit. Later, I talked to my friend about Demon Souls, and he told me I picked the wrong starting class and it wasn't meant to be played that way. He got this idea from a mutual friend and others online. At the time, my gaming philosophy was the best way to play any game was by yourself with no help. I would have unironically agreed with the meme, you cheated not only the game, but yourself. Despite my poor experience with Demon Souls, I gave Dark Souls a chance and rented it a week after its release. I was renting it because I already had sold my copy of Demon Souls to a used game shop at a large loss and didn't want a repeat of that same experience. I chose to listen to my friend and didn't pick the Sorcerer this time. After the intro played, I grabbed the key to my cell, opened the door, read a few of the tutorial messages, climbed the ladder, lit the bonfire, and ran to the Asylum Demon. I died a few times to the demon before seeing the door to the left was open and that my broken sword probably wasn't the answer. I continued through the asylum, picking up my starting weapons and Estus until reaching the fog door. I walked through the door and looked down at the demon. With our positions now reversed from earlier, I plunged down on his head, seeing the damage read 368 instead of the 2 damage for the broken sword was a rush. With this leap in power, it only took a few tries and the demon was slain. As I opened the giant doors to the asylum, I understood what my friends liked about these games and was excited to have those feelings, but those feelings didn't last long. After arriving at Firelink Shrine, I looked around a little bit and only saw 2 ways forward. First was through a graveyard full of skeletons. The skeletons there seemed insurmountable. I could kill a small group, but I'd use up all of my healing just on that one group. I did see some items to pick up, so I ran through and got all that I could, but none of them seemed of much value to me other than a giant sword that I didn't have stats to use. I decided to save the graveyard for later and went to the second path. It was an elevator that took me down to the flooded ruins of New Londo. All I found down there were unstoppable ghosts. My character and attacks would just go right through them, and my shield was unable to block any of their attacks. I tried to run past them and just get eviscerated. Progress seemed impossible. I bounced between both paths a few times and gave up. I returned the game the next day. Sadly, all I had to do was turn around and the path I should have gone was right behind me. The 2 paths I was going were for later in the game. The ghosts require an item or status to interact with, and the skeletons are made much easier with better equipment. Over the next 10 months, I watched various streamers play Demon Souls and Dark Souls. Through watching those streams, I learned that there were 2 main reasons that I had bad experiences. First was that my playstyle was to rush through everything and stubbornly bash my head against any problem until it worked. Second was my expectations were misaligned with the game. I needed to slow down, the combat was purposely slow, speed and precision are needed for some actions, but generally strategy mattered more than speed. Exploring areas, menus, and game mechanics all would help you develop strategies and make the game easier. Yes, dying is a main facet of the game. Using those deaths to gain knowledge and experiment is why dying is a large part of the gameplay loop. The expected meme response of get good or skill issue isn't actually the only solution. Both games include many different mechanics that as a player you can interact with to overcome your problems no matter what your current build is. Manually aiming ranged attacks. This is great help to kill those pesky archers that are just outside of reach. Learning the leashing distance of each enemy placement to either deal damage with low risk or have a safe place to heal. Having a safe space can help you remain calm and make less mistakes. Creating weapons with different properties or using consumables to alter the properties of your own weapons. Going from 33 to 137 damage by just using a pine resin feels amazing. Summon in an NPC or another player. Some NPCs are known to solo bosses, and just having another target will distract enemies enough to give you some breathing room. Equipping armor more suited for the situation, fashion souls be damned. I'll never forget having the hardest time versus the 4 kings and then looking up a guide, putting on the stone armor and beating them on the next attempt I made it there. Demon's Souls and Dark Souls have many mechanics that are obfuscated but can be discovered through gameplay, in-game player or dev messages, item descriptions, and online discussions. The in-game mechanics are generally more vague, which can lead to some misinterpretations, like using a Firekeeper soul and the promised increase of potency of healing not working. Player messages are more commonly used for jokes, trolls, and words of encouragement. Amazing chest ahead. Try jumping. Don't give up, skeleton, are classic examples. Taking this newfound knowledge, I went out and bought Dark Souls again. I made my way through the Undead Asylum, rose through the Undead Burg, and bludgeoned my way through the rest of the game. I was roasted by the gargoyles, ripped apart by the Capra Demon's dogs, cursed in the depths, poisoned countless times in Blighttown, and melted by Quelaag. The journey wasn't pretty, but when the credits rolled, I took a deep breath of relief and fist pump. Treating the game like a puzzle I was solving instead of a test of skill, as its reputation would have you believe, made the game significantly more enjoyable. With that, Dark Souls became one of the best gaming experiences I have ever had. At the beginning of last year, Daryl Talks Games made a video where he planned to tackle his own backlog over a single year and then report how it went. It wasn't just for his own enjoyment or to lift the burden of his own backlog, but to help give others the ideas of how to tackle their own backlog. In preparation for the release of the follow-up video, I began to work on my own backlog, so I copied his spreadsheet and began to fill it in. And then I noticed I was adding quite a few games that I had dropped for various reasons. After noticing this, I added a new column labeled Second Chance to notate these games. I wanted to give these games that I wanted to like a second chance. One of these games was Outer Wilds. It was a game I saw recommended a lot, and it really did seem like a game I would love. My first experience with Outer Wilds started off okay. I explored around the intro area a bit. I burned a few marshmallows, crashed the model ship, played hide and seek with the kids. I was having a good time until I hit the Zero-G cave. After putting on the suit and descending into the cavern with the mock satellite, I felt like I wasn't able to control my character and grew frustrated as I tried to make the repairs. I'd rushed to go one direction and zoom past my destination. I tried to correct the mistake, but instead would go in the completely wrong direction. It felt like I had spent half an hour flailing around in there. As soon as I finished the repairs, I rushed through the rest of the intro so I could get the launch codes and leave. I just wanted to get on with the real parts of the game. After getting the codes, I took a quick look around the ship, put on my suit, and took off. I went straight to the moon just like a younger me would have always wanted to do. After landing on the moon, I got lost and wandered around until I spotted a smoke trail. I followed it to a small cluster of trees and a small campsite, where I spoke with a lonely explorer but ended up being disappointed with what I found. I left poor Escar behind and went to Brittle Hollow. Brittle Hollow seemed much more exciting. It had a volcanic moon, a cool name. There I found an abandoned ship with an unidentified signal. I quickly went through the ship and opened the emergency hatch. And then I was face to face with a black hole hiding behind a ruined staircase. I nervously made my way down, following the ruined staircase, jumping from stair to stair, until I missed a jump, bounced off the wall, and fell straight into the black hole. Expecting the black hole to kill me, I put down the controller. I watched as the black hole encompassed my whole screen. With a whoosh, the sun appeared very far away. Parts of the UI were duplicated and distorted across my screen. A humming noise filled my ears as I picked up the controller and spun around. The bright white light stared back at me. My fuel and oxygen slowly depleted as I explored the area, hoping to find a way to save myself. After continuously bashing into rocks that were just as lost as I was, my oxygen ran out and I died. I was super confused about the whole experience and super frustrated with controls. I set down my controller and wondered, why do people even like this game? I alt F4'd and didn't plan on coming back to the game. Just after I had added Outer Wilds to my backlog, Ceres Fauna was going to do her own playthrough of Outer Wilds. I decided to watch her playthrough and let that decide if I should keep Outer Wilds on my backlog. I saw the first video pop up on my subscription feed and sat down ready to watch her suffer through the controls and game like I did. However, while watching her uncover the secrets and have fun despite the difficulty, it made me want to play Outer Wilds again. I booted up the game and was exploring behind Fauna, reading what she missed, trying to rush ahead and find out secrets before she did. Playing Outer Wilds alongside Fauna became an amazing experience. This turned one of my worst experiences with video games to one of the best. My new experience with Outer Wilds got me thinking of all the other games on my list with the second chance column checked. How many of these games are like Outer Wilds and Dark Souls that for various reasons didn't work out the first time? That these other games may be amazing experiences just waiting for me. So instead of working on my entire backlog, I wanted to give all those games a second chance. With Second Chance Game Review, I will revisit games that I dropped in the past. There was something special about each of these games that made me want to play them, but something about each of these games or just my own circumstances caused me to drop them or add them to my endlessly growing backlog. I've categorized each game into the reasons that I stopped playing each of them. Some examples are, ooh, shiny, for when something else distracted me and I totally forgot about it. Or Just Let Me Love You, when a game had something that just wouldn't let me enjoy the game, like they had some wonky jump mechanics, they just crashed randomly, or had too high of a time investment to progress. Each review will focus on the positives of each game and how my experience with each game has changed. My hope is that Second Chance Game Review will inspire others to play their own drop games and that they can find amazing experiences that they missed out on. Every game deserves a second chance.